The novel opens with Holden Caulfield, a 16-year-old, narrating his story from a mental institution. He recounts events leading up to his current situation, starting with his expulsion from Pensy Prep. Holden's narrative voice is cynical and filled with teenage angst, providing insight into his troubled mind and sense of alienation. The opening sets the stage for a journey through Holden's experiences and inner turmoil. Holden has been expelled for failing most of his classes. He decides to leave Pensy early, feeling disillusioned with the school and its students, whom he considers phonies. His expulsion is not the first. Holden has been kicked out of multiple schools, reflecting a pattern of rebellion and failure to fit into societal expectations. This recurring theme underscores his deep-seated dissatisfaction with the world around him. Before leaving, Holden visits his history teacher, Mr. Spencer, who tries to advise him about his future. Holden feels uncomfortable and frustrated by the lecture, seeing it as pointless. Despite Mr. Spencer's good intentions, Holden's inability to accept advice reveals his resistance to authority and his struggle with adult expectations. This encounter highlights the generational disconnect and Holden's sense of isolation. On the train to New York, Holden meets Mrs. Morrow, the mother of a fellow student. He fabricates a story about her son to make her feel proud, revealing his habit of lying and creating fantasies. Holden's propensity to lie reflects his discomfort with reality and his desire to create a more palatable world. His interactions with Mrs. Morrow show his complex relationship with truth and his conflicted sense of identity. In New York, Holden checks into the Edmont Hotel. He observes various activities through his window, which further disgust him with the perceived depravity and phoniness of others. The hotel's seedy environment exacerbates Holden's sense of alienation and his disdain for the adult world's moral corruption. This setting amplifies his feelings of being trapped in a world he cannot relate to. Holden hires a prostitute named Sunny but becomes nervous and only wants to talk. When he refuses to pay more than the agreed amount, her pimp, Maurice, roughs him up and takes the money. This encounter leaves Holden feeling vulnerable and ashamed, deepening his sense of isolation and his struggles with his sexual identity. The violence he experiences also reinforces his fear and mistrust of adults. Holden arranges a date with Sally Hayes. They go to a play, and then ice skating. Holden impulsively suggests they run away together, but Sally refuses, leading to an argument and a breakup. Holden's unrealistic plan to escape highlights his desperation and his inability to face reality. The argument with Sally further isolates him, as he pushes away one of the few people willing to spend time with him. Seeking comfort, Holden visits the Museum of Natural History, which he loved as a child. The museum's unchanging displays symbolize the stability and predictability he desires in life. Holden's longing for the unchanging exhibits reflects his fear of growing up and his desire to preserve innocence. The museum represents a sanctuary from the complexities and uncertainties of adulthood. Holden meets an old acquaintance, Carl Luce, for drinks. Carl, now more mature, suggests that Holden see a psychiatrist, but Holden is dismissive and continues to spiral. Carl's suggestion underscores the severity of Holden's mental health issues, which he is reluctant to acknowledge. This meeting illustrates the widening gap between Holden and his peers who are moving forward with their lives. Throughout the novel, Holden's interactions with people often end in disappointment. His loneliness and depression grow as he fails to connect meaningfully with anyone. Holden's constant search for genuine human connection highlights his deep-seated need for understanding and his fear of being alone. His repeated failures exacerbate his sense of alienation and drive his erratic behavior. Holden sneaks home to visit his younger sister, Phoebe. She is worried about his future and offers him her Christmas savings. Phoebe is one of the few people Holden truly cares about. Her concern and generosity provide a rare glimpse of genuine affection and support in Holden's life. Phoebe represents the innocence and honesty that Holden desperately wants to protect in a world he perceives as corrupt. Holden decides to leave New York and live a solitary life in the West. He writes a note to Phoebe to meet him at the museum so he can say goodbye before leaving. This plan signifies Holden's ultimate attempt to escape the pain and confusion of his current life. His choice to involve Phoebe shows his deep bond with her, even as he tries to isolate himself from everyone else. Phoebe arrives with a suitcase, intending to join him. Holden is touched by her loyalty but realizes he cannot take her with him. He decides to stay for her sake. Phoebe's innocence and unconditional love force Holden to confront the reality of his situation. Her willingness to run away with him makes him understand the responsibility he has towards her and the need to find a healthier way to cope. Holden takes Phoebe to a carousel in Central Park. Watching her ride, he feels a rare moment of happiness and peace. This symbolizes his acceptance of the need to grow up and face reality. The carousel, with its circular nature, represents the ongoing process of life and the inevitable passage of time. Holden's contentment in this moment suggests a glimmer of hope and the possibility of healing. The novel ends with Holden in the mental institution, reflecting on his experiences. He expresses ambivalence about the future but shows signs of being more hopeful and willing to move forward. Holden's narrative ends on a note of cautious optimism, suggesting that he might find a way to navigate the complexities of life. His reflections indicate a tentative acceptance of the support and help he needs to recover. Let us know in the comments what books you'd like to see us summarize next. Happy learning, we will catch you in the next story.